Susie Campbell has been a very mysterious character since she was introduced in Bendy and the Ink Machine Chapter 2. In Chapter 3, we were able to hear more of her backstory, but her dialogue only raised more questions than answers, especially when it came to her relationship with her fellow workers. And boy, did things get really weird. Another Bendy and the Ink Machine theory? You betcha! Let's start with what we know. We know that Susie Campbell voiced Alice Angel. We also know that Alice Angel was the first character Susie Campbell felt a true connection with. After her debut voicing Alice Angel, Susie Campbell claimed to love working with Joey Drew and his team. And finally, Susie Campbell was suddenly replaced as voice of Alice Angel by Alison Pendle. Got all those facts? Now let's bring it all together. In Chapter 2, Susie Campbell expressed her delight in working at Joey Drew's studio and finally finding a character that she truly connects with.
This is the first character I've really felt a connection with, like she's a part of me.
However, we learn in Chapter 3 that this is tragically taken away from her without her knowledge, as a new voice actress, Alison Pendle, replaces her as Alice Angel. The revelation of this and the events surrounding it paints a very interesting story happening behind the scenes. Take Susie's first recording, for instance.
Everything feels like it's coming apart. When I walked into the recording booth today, Sammy was there with that Allison.
She says this with such disgust and follows it up with,
Apparently I didn't get the memo. Alice Angel will now be voiced by Miss Alison Pendle. A part of me died when he said that.
whoa. Not only is she upset with being replaced, she seems a little bit jealous. At first, I thought that these lines just applied to the role of Alice Angel, but reading between the lines, it almost looks like she has something going on with Sammy, only adding further to the betrayal. Now let's just pause for a moment. I'm not usually the type of person to comment on this kind of thing, but seeing all the pieces slowly fit together the way they do was just too hard to ignore. Now you might be saying, no! But trust me, there's some evidence here. We just need to go back to July of 2017. Early Bendy fans would remember that this was the month of the Bendy Hot Topic takeover, an event where Sammy Lawrence posted tweets under Hot Topic's account to promote some of the first Bendy merch that would make it to stores. While many of the tweets break the fourth wall, Sammy actually shared some interesting information with us regarding his personality and other characters in the game. We also need to remember that this is a time where all we knew about Susie Campbell was that she was the voice of Alice Angel, she was the only female human in the game, and she only worked for Joey Drew for 2 months. So Bendy fans were naturally very curious about her. When asked about his relationship with Susie Campbell, Sammy states, "A charming woman. Quite charming. I recall only her face. That smile." This suggests that Sammy really liked Susie, and the fact that her face, particularly her smile, sticks out to him the most is very telling. On the other hand, some people might say that it's an accurate portrayal of how humans function. After all, there's a specific region in the brain dedicated to facial recognition known as the fusiform face area that has pretty much evolved for this purpose. However, whether Sammy is still human or not in his inky prison of a body is still up for debate. In any case, it seemed that Sammy did like Susie in some respect. However, in another tweet, Sammy was asked whether he had someone special in his life, to which he replied, "Someone special? Well, there was this one. I almost remember." If Sammy can remember Susie's charm and her smile, why can't he remember if she was so special to him? Remembering that this happened before Chapter 3, perhaps the Meatly Games didn't want to reveal any new characters at the time. In Chapter 3, Susie was replaced by Alison Pendle, which became a sudden source of utter disbelief for Susie. This means that it's possible that Sammy once liked Susie, but became fond of Alison Pendle instead. We need to keep in mind that Sammy is speaking to us after all of the drama at the studio has unfolded, so any developments in the studio's backstory need to be taken into account. In this case, Alison replacing Susie is a pivotal point because of a future tweet where he states this about Alice Angel. "Oh, such a voice. So heavenly. So beautiful." Unless something happened that caused him to like Alice Angel through the history of the studio's tragedy, this has to be referring to Alison Pendle. Considering that Alice sees Bendy as a threat and wants to antagonize him, and Sammy practically worships him, it's probably unlikely that he's in love with 3D Alice. Unfortunately, the game hasn't currently provided us with audio logs from Alison Pendle, so it's tough to confirm whether the feelings were mutual. However, we do have plenty of audio from Susie Campbell, who is more commonly believed to have transformed into Alice. Susie has told us a lot about herself, and it seems she reveals something very saucy. After collecting all of the gears to feed Susie's machines and returning to the elevator, Susie mentions that Sammy was always a good liar, but she also mentions that he was once a very handsome man. And even Sammy thinks that he looks good. In his Hot Topic tweets, he talks up his own hair, which he misses very dearly. Given this and what we've covered so far, it seems like there really may have been something going on between the two, but things were ruined for them when Susie was replaced. That is, of course, if Susie truly is Alice, but that's a whole other theory. Psst, we covered this in the card in the top right. However, it doesn't end there. If Susie and Sammy truly were in a relationship, her connection with Alice Angel was far more important. This is so much so that Susie would do whatever it took to become Alice Angel's voice again. In another of Susie's audio logs, she mentioned that she had lunch with Joey Drew, during which she learned times were tougher than she thought at the studio. At the end of the log, she mentions that Joey Drew even called her Alice, and that she liked it. This is a really odd touch to put at the end of one of these logs, as it suggests a stronger bond between Susie and Joey Drew than we once thought. It's the first time that we've had evidence that their relationship went beyond employer and employee, as it was in Chapter 2. Remembering that Susie was determined to get her role as Alice Angel back, it could be possible that Joey was just buttering her up so that he would still have her around to voice other side characters. However, if Susie truly wanted it, it could be possible that she was slowly convincing Joey to give her the role back. Alice Angel's actions in Chapter 3 tell us that she is very good at getting what she wants with Henry, and, provided that she inherited Susie's wits, it is possibly emulating what Susie herself was doing with Joey Drew. Considering that Alice even calls her series of missions a date, lends even further to this. This means that there could potentially be a love triangle, or square, I guess, if you include Alice and Pendle, and a balance of power involved here, where Susie Campbell was gradually rising to the top of the studio just to get her role back. Interestingly, this could be the source of other conflicts at the studio, such as the Bendy versus Alice conflict. My take on the end screens for Chapter 3 is that there will be a huge battle between Bendy and Alice, but there hasn't been a solid reason for why they even butt heads in the first place. Considering what we've come across so far and the relationships between these characters, as well as their current behaviors in the game, we might finally have some kind of reason. Sammy Lawrence is clearly on Team Ink Bendy and wants to please him as much as possible, such as through putting up Bendy cutouts around the studio and singing hymns for him. On the other hand, Alice antagonizes Bendy in any way possible, opting to cut down all of the Bendy cutouts, and she does her best to keep her body together and improve on it until she is perfect. This may be allegorical to the goings-on at the studio in the 30 years prior to the events of the game. The only thing that I see not making sense here is that Alice and Sammy praise each other in one way or another. Alice praises Sammy's good looks, and Sammy praises Alice's voice and Susie's smile. All of this may add a whole new dimension to the reason why Henry is at the studio in the first place. Rather than to stop Ink Bendy, he may be there to help Ink Bendy instead. Considering that Alice is seeking perfection and that all of the 3D cartoons don't talk, Henry's purpose at the studio may be to get Ink Bendy to reach his perfect form and to take out Alice Angel, who has the studio in lockdown and is mercilessly killing cartoon clones. While everyone at the studio knows that they should beware the Ink Demon, the only ones truly afraid of him are Boris, who is already perfect, and Alice, who is seeking perfection. In fact, we can see that Bendy doesn't try to harm any of the Butcher Gang members at all, and doesn't even bother with Boris. However, this could be because Boris has lightning-fast reflexes when it comes to locking Bendy out of the elevator. Why does Bendy want Henry so bad? Some would say that it's because Henry keeps on destroying the Searchers and the Butcher Gang clones, but we have to remember that Bendy went after Henry in the first Chapter 2, where there were no such threats to him. Remembering that Henry was invited to the studio by Joey Drew, it's probable that Joey may have lost control of Ink Bendy, and so would not be able to stop him from going after his guest. After all, in the Chapter 1 trailer, it mentions that the workers' creations would rise against them. Then again, if Bendy is Joey Drew, Ink Bendy's aggression may be an expression of Joey's dismay for Henry leaving the studio 30 years ago. Let's not forget that Ink Bendy and all of the other cartoons could just be randomly summoned demonic creatures as a result of Joey Drew trying to appease the gods. If Ink Bendy is truly the one to set all of the cartoons and ink workers free, then Henry is definitely around to be a catalyst for it, and Alice Angel definitely knows that.
Henry, I know who you are, and I know why you're here.
It really makes you wonder what else we could expect from Chapter 4. Tap this video to find out, or check out these videos which were picked just for you. If you're new, remember to subscribe and tap that bell for more bendy and horror game theories that actually make sense. Prodigies, I have to admit that discovering this about Susie made me rather uncomfortable, and I'm hoping this is proven wrong in Chapter 4 or 5. Hope these videos help to expand on how you think. See ya!